All right, so we're going to have the quiz for the day, the extra credit quiz. The question is, what sporting event will take place at the MSU Northern Armory Gymnasium this Thursday, which is a change, and Friday at 7 o'clock? You just need to know what the sporting event is, okay, to get partial credit anyhow. Then the second part of it will be who will be the opponents. You could get double extra credit if you know who the opponents are. Okay. Oops, I guess I got that up here. A couple of things, couple of items. Maria, the extra credit question for today is, what sporting event's going to take place at the Armory Gymnasium both Thursday night and Friday night? What type of sport? And then for extra bonus, it would be who will be the opponents. Okay. A couple of other items that I wanted to talk about. I think tomorrow is the date scheduled for interviews with GE for internships. And Mary Heller sent out a note that said right now only 2 people are actually signed up to interview with GE for internships. Their internships, from what I know, are pretty awesome. They pay pretty good money. They ultimately hire quite a few of our people. I think through the years they've hired close to 100 graduates from Northern. And last I knew, a very large share of those were still with the company. So, and business students are one area where they're looking, diesel and auto, of course, as well. So if you're interested, go see Mary Heller at the Career Center over in Cowan Hall. Item 2 then, housekeeping a little bit, is that deadline for continuing scholarship applications is February 7th, I believe, which would be like Monday or something like that. I made February 7th, that's not right, because Sunday was 2/2, so might be the end of this week. Yeah, it would be. It'd be Friday. Yeah, that is the 7th, so it is Friday. And you'd go see financial aid, I believe, to put in for any of those scholarships. I tell you, there are often times when, I know when we're, in the past anyhow, when we've gone through business scholarship applicants, we've had to give multiple scholarships to some students because we have more scholarships than we have students applying for them. So it's always a good idea to put in for those, even if you think you're not eligible. There are some that are, of course, needs-based, but there are a lot of scholarships that are not needs-based, and so anybody can be eligible for them. So, third kind of housekeeping item is I haven't gotten through everybody's cash flow balance sheet. Okay, that's what I'm working on, but I've gotten through everybody's payroll and that part of it anyhow. Please read your feedback. Okay, a lot of you, it's fine. The feedback's just, hey, the numbers look okay, press on, that's fine. Okay, but there's also a lot of you that I leave feedback that I expect to be fixed, right? Otherwise, if you turn in your project at the end and that stuff is still unfixed, that's not going to look very good, right? Okay, so please read your feedback and make adjustments as I've suggested, or if you have questions about any of those suggestions, get a hold of me, especially those of you that are in class. It's real easy to come around and get those fixed, or give you some ideas to fix them right here in class. For those of you that are distance, you can send me emails or whatever questions that you might have. If need be, we can get on the phone and go over it together. So do that. Financial narrative should have been turned in. I think there was about half a dozen of them that were in. That was before lunch, so maybe after lunch a few more got submitted. Tonight's fine. Yeah. That's. I'm not going to get them read this week probably. Anyhow, I'll try to get through all the spreadsheets because I really want those done so that you guys can make sure that part's correct. The narrative again should only be a couple pages, and so I don't imagine that I'll make huge changes on those, although you never know. I mean, some of them I may have to make lots of suggestions and whatnot. Austin, you were it, man. You're the only one that got the Super Bowl prediction right.
Yeah, I didn't even watch it.
And you didn't even watch today. Did you even know who was playing, or were you just picking out? Okay. Dang. Yeah, well.
The last 10 minutes.
Yeah, that was about the last 6 minutes. The Chiefs scored like 21 points in the last 6 minutes of the game. So, yeah. If you'd have tuned in after halftime, it would, because halftime was 10-10 anyhow, so it was 0-0. And then the halftime show had to be about the worst thing I've ever. Well, and I didn't hardly. What? Did you like the halftime show?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
People are saying it's like the best halftime show.
Really? Well, I didn't really watch it because it was so awful. I kind of ate supper, but I listened to it in the background, and the music, anyhow, was awful. I can say that. Yeah. But I'm a little picky about my musical tastes and whatnot. So I actually like real music instead of some of this stuff that they have nowadays that, can obviously not be referred to as music. It's something completely different. Actually, I read just a day or two ago, I read an article, and a guy did a statistical study of music, and he said that, in fact, music today is a lot less complicated. They went through vocal range, musical range, lyrics, chord structures, all those things. He had computer set up, and so he'd go through and analyze all these songs, and he said there's been a steady kind of decline or a reversion to the mean, I guess you would call it, where songs are becoming less original. They're all kind of fitting into this small of a box instead of a much bigger box in terms of melodies and harmonies and everything else. So it was an interesting article.
Do you think that has to do with artists wanting to capitalize on like being mainstream?
The guy said that he thought a lot of it was the tech part of it, that technology, and there's an interesting sidebar to it, and it said that the musical literacy in the U.S. is way down. There's 50% of the people can't even read music in the U.S. How many people in here can read music? Yeah, so about 50% here, roughly. And then there's another 20%, it said, that read it poorly. That they kind of read music a little bit, maybe they know the notes and that kind of stuff. So that's 70% of the people that don't read music or really understand music real well. And so that's the masses that obviously the music people are appealing to, as opposed to, 50, 60, 70 years ago. Everybody had music in grade school, and everybody by the time they got out of high school could read music probably. And so they had a lot better. There's more people that had a broader understanding. That's my speculation a little bit. He didn't say all of that in that article, but that was kind of the point. Anyhow, back to our discussions here. So, let's try to get those financials and stuff put to bed. And by that I mean, if I've given you some feedback, please, correct it, resubmit it. I'll keep getting back to those folders and try to get that looked at so that we can put the finishing touches on that and move on to our next piece, which is marketing. Right? I've given you this template in here, okay, and this is the one, business plan for a startup, I think it's called. There's a couple other, I think, or at least one other template that's in there in the content section. This one's good, and use it. This is, again, by SCORE, same people that developed the spreadsheets that we were working on. It's a really nice outline, okay? A lot of the work's done for you here. I shouldn't say that, but at least the foundation or the skeleton of this is done for you ahead of time, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel for a lot of this. But that said, there's an expectation here that you guys do a lot of the things that it asks you to do in terms of the research and the thinking things through. And so the marketing plan here starts on page 7, goes to page 15. So there's 8 pages just of outline, except we got to go back to products and services. So there's 6. There's really 9 pages of just outline. Okay, that sets the bar pretty high as to what I expect in terms of, you know, your written finished product for the marketing section. This is going to be your longest narrative section. Okay, it should be the longest by a significant amount. Okay, you should spend a lot of time and effort writing this up. I think I've got that built into the schedule. Okay, I'm going to talk about it quite a bit today. You know, next couple days I'll maybe spend 5-10 minutes, you know, going over a few other points in marketing, throw out some ideas and whatnot, answer questions, etc. But then other than that, you should have some time to really work on this. And I do expect you to work on it and give me a good effort here. So I'm going to scroll down to where we start, products and services, right? You're going to describe in depth your products and services, you know, technical things that may be there. Okay, if you're doing if you have products, okay. If you're trucking, okay, you know, you might describe your truck, right, and what types of trailers you might be using, that kind of stuff, right? What kinds of services you're going to be providing, you know, grain, cattle, hay, whatever you might be hauling, right? Okay. What factors are going to give you a competitive advantage? I want you to touch on this. When we get into the strategy, into the actual marketing, you're going to get a lot more in depth here. Okay. And so you can kind of touch on, in fact, if you left this and you went and did the marketing part first and you did the strategic part and you spent a good amount of time on that and then you came back and filled this in, that might be a better way to do that, and just this becomes an abbreviated part of what your actual strategic plan is going to be. Okay. And then lastly, your pricing fee, those types of things. I've had folks in the past, you know, if they were running a little restaurant, they might actually do up a little menu. Yeah, here's my menu, here's what we're going to have, and here's what the pricing is going to be. Okay. And you could make up a little brochure. You know, go to Publisher. Pretty easy to make up a little brochure if you wanted to for your particular service, right? This is what I offer. You know, these are tire changes, field service, you know, whatever it might be. You know, that Seth's going to be doing out there. Okay, you could say this is how much per hour, depending on, you know, or that type of a thing. So you could sure do up something like that. It would definitely add to the quality of your finished product here. So feel free to do that. Okay, then you get to your marketing plan, and here, you know, they do a pretty good job of putting this together. I would say that probably a good share of these projects that have done in the past, you know, the market research probably falls a little short of my expectations. So I'd really like to see everybody put some effort into this. Of course, I say that every year. You know, I'd really like to see a lot of effort put into this because market research is just cool. And you learn a lot from it. That said, I've never taught marketing. Marketing is absolutely not my specialty. I'm more of a finance guy. Okay, and so, you know, if you've had marketing classes, you may know more about some of this stuff than I do, or certainly whoever taught you marketing knows more about it than I do. And so feel free to go and lean on them a little bit if you want to. Okay, or again, go down to Bear Paw Development and talk to Joe LaPlante or. It's hell getting old and you can't remember people's names. Gal that works with Joe anyhow down there and does that. It'll probably be coming to me at the end of the class. Okay, so why do we do market research? Because we got to know a lot of things. You know, we got to know who else offers the product. We got to know what kind of things are out there. You know, how many people have kids in Havre, Randy? How many kids are in Havre at each age group? Do you know? Did you know you can find that? Okay, yeah, Census Bureau, right? Okay, how many? I don't know if anybody's got a business like this, but how many vehicles travel on Highway 2 every single day in through Havre? And there's probably I don't know, a couple different places anyhow where they count those. Okay, Montana Department of Transportation has that information. Okay, you can look it up. You can figure out how many vehicles actually travel on Highway 2 every day in Havre. Okay, and so there are things that you don't even know about your business right now that you can actually find out. Okay, what's the median income for residents of Havre? That's available. Okay, There is one site, it's called ePodunk, that's kind of funky. ePodunk, and you type in, I think, 59501 Havre's address, and that gives you some information, and it does it in a fairly nice format. But it also gives you links then to like the Census Bureau and some of the other places. Okay, so not a bad place to take a look, because you got to know how many people you're going to be serving, and whether it's Havre or another community that you're planning to have your business in, you got to know those types of things, right? Okay, how many business establishments are in Havre? You can find it. Okay, what types they are, number of employees they have. There's a lot of information. A lot of we call that secondary research. Okay, because you can sit on your computer and do most of that, or go to the library, or again, if you want it to be a little easier, go stop in and see the folks down at Bear Paw Development, and they will be happy to provide you. They can probably lay their fingers right on a lot of that stuff. Okay, or at least give you a better idea of where to go look for it. If you're really struggling, hit me up. I can probably find some of that as well. But okay, a lot of that through the years were because students found it. I was 15 years ago reading somebody's project, and it was a Four Corners down by Roy, Montana. If anybody knows where Four Corners is, down by Roy, Montana, and this gal was going to reopen the restaurant or whatever down there. And she writes right in her report, there's 347 cars that pass by there every day, or whatever the number was. I'm not sure exactly. Where the heck did you get that information? Oh, you can look it right up on, So I've learned a lot of that through students reaching out and finding that information. So hopefully you guys will find some other sites that will give me some information. I think there's another place called City Data that gives you information about what's going on in the city and whatnot. And obviously you can Google those things. Primary research, and very, very few projects have done primary research, and I don't necessarily require that, but it's not a bad idea. And what primary research is you doing it yourself. Okay, Austin's project might not be a bad one. Where are you going to be headquartered out of, Austin?
More than likely it'll be Malta.
Malta? Okay. So, Austin calls up several people in the Malta area and figures out whether or not they need trucking services and what type of trucking services they might need or want. Why? Is it because they want to send more pulse crops further away, because there's not a market for it right there in Malta? Whatever the case may be. Okay, that's just primary research. I've often classified it even as just asking the guy in the bar stool next to you, what they think about this idea. I mean, that sounds a little bit stupid, but it can be almost that simple. Focus groups, you could do surveys. You could do a Survey Monkey thing. It's a free deal. Send out a survey to people Hey, is this a service you'd be interested in? Okay, so you can do those types of things as well. That's primary research. Again, not necessarily required for a project like this, but again, it certainly adds. Certainly adds to what we like to see. Economics, right? This gets back to some of the things. This gets back to some of the secondary research too. What's the total size of our market? How many farmers are in Phillips County? Think you can find that out? Guarantee you the FSA will tell you how many farmers, average size, things like that, right? Okay. Probably tell you how many bushels of wheat, how many bushels of barley, how many head of cattle, were moved out of there. So, okay. So economics and looking up this kind of stuff is really important. So what percent of the share of the market will you have? And sometimes this is just saying, okay, if there's X amount total in the particular market, and my sales forecast, there's $1 million, okay, total in the market, and my sales forecast says I'm going to do 100,000. Well, I need to get 10% market share then, right? So sometimes you're just backing your way into that. Does that make sense? If you can figure out what the total, the total market is, and some businesses you'll be able to, trucking maybe, some of the other ones, law services maybe. Legal services maybe, some of those maybe. Yeah, yours might. I think I've had folks before find that out, so you might be able to, Seth. Yours might be a little more tough, more difficult.
I can only think of like 2 or 3 places off the top of my head.
That are doing some consulting types of.
Oh, I didn't even think that far.
Oh.
Consulting
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Randy, there's a good resource, I think, through Opportunity Link maybe for, I think, or HRDC, one of the two for childcare. What's available in the community, et cetera, et cetera. You know, you figure out how many are there, and then again, you know how many kids there are. Can you figure out an approximate market share that you're going to need? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Current demand, trends in the target market. So what's the growth trend? What's the growth trends in Malta? Yeah, Malta's stable. Farms are still consolidating, right? And you got the American Prairie Reserve. Yeah. Now, no cuss words in your project, okay? Growth, but those are important things to talk about, okay? You get to talk about those kinds of things are going on and what effect that might have, you know, on your business, right? But demographics are also important. What if all the other truckers down in that area are 65 years old? You know, well, there's going to be some opportunity for somebody that's not 65 years old maybe to come in. So, okay. Growth potential and opportunity for a business of your size, right? And maybe that's not that important to you either. If you're just if you're doing this as a business, you're just trying to make a living, you know, there's limitations to the size of a child care business that you can have with one person. You know, that's by regulation. So you're going to talk about that here, right? Your growth potential is going to be, well, you'd have to make the decision to bump up, hire somebody, and go through all the stuff that entails. Is that worth it or not, right? Okay. What barriers of entry do you face? And again, this is a case where you're answering this as much for yourself as for potential competitors, right? Okay. Because you'd like to be in a business where the potential competitors have a tough time getting involved in it. So you got, is it capital costs? Is it production costs? Most of you haven't picked businesses that are going to have high production costs. I don't think anybody in here has a business that has high production costs, so probably not. High marketing costs, same thing. I don't know that anybody in here has a business that's going to have particularly high marketing costs. Consumer acceptance and brand recognition. Yeah, this is a barrier that I think everybody's going to face a little bit, right? When you're first starting off, you're going to be facing an uphill battle here. So training and skills, very important. So that's important for you. Wiley, obviously, for yours, right? Because you got to go through that. I mean, that's a huge barrier, right? Okay. Unique technology and patents. I don't know if anybody has any plans in here that they're have any unique things that, are trademarks or anything like that are going to be that important. Unions, probably not. I don't think anybody in here is looking for that type of a business. Shipping costs may be up in our area. It's possible, right? Tariff barriers and quotas, probably not. Okay. How are you going to overcome whatever barriers you've identified that are kind of important, right? How are the following going to affect your company, right? Changes in technology. Ooh. Yeah, Seth, that might be important to you, right? Because that's constantly changing, and Tesla's going to introduce some fully electric semis. That just doesn't seem like it's going to work in north central Montana, but I'm just saying. Things you talk about, right? I mean, those are coming down the road, and they might be here, but, they haven't really solved the whole cold weather battery thing as far as I know. So we'll see. Changes in government regulations. These go up and down. Wow. Regulations were skyrocketing for 8 years, and now they've been going downhill, for the last 3 years. And depending on the election, they'll probably either keep going downhill or they'll start going back up again. So who knows, right? We can only kind of make some guesses there. There are certainly going to be regulations in terms of, sustainability is now the big word, right? So people are going to be moving towards more efficient transportation models, okay? Changes in your industry that you can think of, right? We need to look at those. Okay. Again, in the product service section, you describe the product. It says here, describe them from the customer's point of view. So what's the customer looking for, right? Is it looking for a safe environment for their kids? Are they looking for somebody that can haul pulse crops, 100 miles away or 150 miles away? Or are they looking for somebody to haul cattle? I don't know. You guys, you guys get to tell me, right? Features and benefits. So describe the features, but also the benefits. So a feature might be a well-insulated home. Benefit might be lower energy costs, right? Okay. Feature might be mobile service. The benefit is you come right to their farm or ranch or business, or whatever the case may be. Okay. I'm going to get here quickly, I think, to strategy. Hey, read through these too, because it gives you some other great examples of things that you should include in there. Customers, everybody has to have a target market. Okay, if I read one person say that my market is everybody, I'll probably throw up and have a, okay. It just doesn't work. Even Walmart, which is probably has as big a market as anybody, they still have a target market, right? It's a broad one, don't get me wrong, but they still have a target market. Okay, theirs is probably low to medium income people for the most part. Okay, who's and I got them up here. So who's Costco's target market?
Who's Costco's target market?
Yeah.
Business people?
Businesses, yeah. They've got two, actually. Business people and higher incomes. Yeah, higher income people like to shop at Costco. So it's kind of interesting. But if you go, they won't necessarily look like higher income people, but if you go there, and you start BSing with some of the folks that are at Costco, they fit that target, right? Okay, so identify. Some people are going to be easy. Randy, yours is pretty easy, right? You're going to have, married couples, both working, young kids, single moms. Boom. You're probably done. You could say single dads. There's fewer of them. We all get that, but they could be apart maybe, or okay. And you can divide it up too between primary, secondary. You could even go tertiary or third, level types of target markets, right? So, yours might be the niche that you're trucking for. It might depend on the time of year, right? Calves are going in fall. Grain, who knows? That's a little bit more all year round, but probably heavily in the late summer.
About this time in the spring.
Yeah, this time and the spring, more so than harvest, I suppose, because harvest they're hauling it themselves.
Harvest, they'll haul
Yeah,
enough into town to have money to keep going, and they'll put the rest in the bin, and then it
yeah,
usually start hauling in the spring, about February, and then you go all the way into
Yeah.
all the way to harvest.
Right.
Where you're at, what you got.
they got to get their bins emptied out, yeah, so they can refill them again and go again. So,
A
okay.
lot of grain in February.
So how do we break it down, right? Age, gender, maybe. Geographic, of course, is really important. Income, and some of you, if you had a broader type of business, you might not be geographically bound with the internet and whatnot now. You can do consulting services over the internet. Heck, they do tutoring over the internet now. So there's some availability there, and so that could be broader, no doubt about it. Income level, we talked about Costco's being high income. Social class and occupations. Well, you're dealing with farmers and ranchers probably, Austin, right? Who are you going to be dealing with, Wiley?
Basically, anyone who needs.
Oh, I'm going to slap your hand. Who needs legal services? And are you going to specialize? Are you going to do just?
I haven't decided. I guess.
Okay. Yeah. Difficult to start off and try to be that broad based. Believe me. You could do. If you're in Scobie, Montana, I think Scobie has one lawyer, and that poor guy, he's got to do everything, right? So he's doing divorces, and he's doing the crimes, and he's doing all those things, right? But if you're in Havre, even Havre's big enough that you're probably going to specialize a little bit. Probably. Okay. You probably the best target market for lawyers in Havre is the guy that wants to get the middle-aged, upper middle income folks off on their DUI charges. I shouldn't say that. Education, right? You know, whether they're highly educated or not. For business customers, they can include some other things like this. I don't know how many of you guys are going to be servicing businesses. Some of you are going to be a little mixed. I get that probably, but a lot of you are going to be for mostly.
Facilitating trainings.
Yeah, so you'll be serving businesses, yeah, probably, and individuals, so you'll be doing a little bit of both, yeah. Yep. So what type of industries are going to be, what types have enough employees even, that they'll send them to training? Or, can you get one employee from 10 different businesses to come to your training? Maybe, yeah. Size of the firms, those types of things, right? Competition. This gets to be a big part too. Who's your competition? Again, you might be able to find a good list. You already found it? Geez, I made a suggestion and you already found that, man. Oh man. Wiley, I don't know where your law firm's going to be, but it's not going to be hard to find a list of law firms, in your chosen area, right? Truckers might be a little, because you got different competition there, right? You got other people that are doing just trucking. You got there's a lot of farmers and ranchers. Ranchers, if that's all they're doing, gosh, if it's spring, maybe they can take a month or two and haul grain, right? And so they might. Or vice versa, farmers that'll haul calves in the fall because harvest is done and they don't have anything else going on. So, and people buying their own truck and doing all their own hauling, right? So it's, who's the competition? You need to kind of figure that out. Talk about substitutes here too, right? Could there be substitutes for your product or service? Could there be? Yeah, maybe. Okay. People hauling their own would be the obvious one for you. Mom staying at home or dad staying at home, doing that kind of stuff. So online, Wiley, people get more online legal services, right? LegalZoom.com or whatever, right? So there are some things like that are coming around. Technologies do. Read through that, but do a good job of identifying your competition and then decide how you're going to compete against them. This gives you a competitive analysis. This is okay. I don't mind it. You can certainly use it. I think it adds definitely. I like, and there's another place, and I'll probably talk about that in a day or two. Michael Porter does a Porter's 5 Forces, it's called. It's kind of a cool look at identifying your competition and your competitive strengths in doing that. So, are you going to be a niche provider? Some of you may or may not be. Okay. Unique corner of the market. Yeah, and some places start out as niche. Your mobile service, is that what yours is going to be, right? That could be a niche. It's possible. You're only going to be, important to a smaller portion maybe of the customers, but you may be real important to them, right? So that's possible. Okay. But some of you may not be a niche, right? I mean, you may be a little bit broader than that. It'd be hard to say childcare is any kind of a niche. It's going to be a little broader. So, okay. Lawyering could be. You might decide that you're just going to do estate work, estate planning. That's all I'm going to do. That's your niche. Okay, so that could be a niche, but it might not be too. It could certainly be a little broader. Strategy. I think I'm a little disappointed in this outline because it gives us just one little line here about strategy, and I think strategy needs to be a real focal point of your marketing plan. And let me say that too, that I really think that there are only 2 main strategies. Okay, and that is you could either differentiate your product or you can be a low-cost provider. Right? You can differentiate your product or you can be a low-cost provider. Some people would argue that there is a third strategy, and I don't disagree with that either, that you are a niche provider. Right? Okay. Differentiation, low price, maybe niche. Okay. What are you going to do? Which one of those are you going to do to set yourself apart? And kind of like I said, you got to pick a target market. Pick a strategy. Don't say, well, I'm going to be, a low-cost provider that provides excellent customer service and differentiation and everything else. Okay, I'll probably slap your hands. That's not to say that they're not mutually exclusive, right? So you can be a differentiator and really strive also to keep your costs down. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay. Or you can be a low-cost provider, and yeah, you can still try to offer good service and all those other things. There's nothing wrong with that. They're not mutually exclusive, okay? But your focal point's got to be on one. You know, what's Costco's?
Costco's?
Yeah.
Bulk sale?
Bulk sales, so what would you call them? Low cost. Everything in their store, if you look at it, has a 13% markup, okay? And that's basically what they do is they buy stuff wholesale or whatever or directly from the manufacturer. They mark it up 13% and put it on the shelf. Okay, 13% is a pretty low margin. In fact, if you look at their financial statements, it's kind of cool. You look at it, they got about a 13% gross margin. Their operating expenses are about 13%. Where do they make their profit? Memberships. Okay. They got about, I think last I read, is 86 million members that pay them roughly $60 a piece for membership, whatever the math is on that, $5 billion or something like that. That's basically their profit. Okay? They're basically breaking even on the stuff that you buy in the store, and they're making their money because you buy a membership every year. That's a low cost, though. I mean, for you and I that maybe want to shop there, that's low cost. So think about how you're going to approach your customer, okay? Michael Porter, I like him. He's a strategy guru kind of guy. He'd tell you that it's really difficult to have a sustainable low-cost advantage over time. You know, not impossible. He just says it's difficult. You know, Walmart there's a low cost, always the low price. You know, they say, but low cost is different than low price too, a little bit, right? Low cost is getting stuff on the shelf at a reduced cost so that you can make more money on the sales, right? A little different necessarily than low price. So, okay, promotion. Then this is what most people think marketing is. How you gonna promote things? Okay, how you gonna advertise? How you gonna do those types of things? Everybody, of course, is gonna do Facebook and all those things, and you're gonna tell me about that because I don't know a lot about social media. I don't know anything about social media. Yeah, so don't direct me to your Facebook page because I don't have a Facebook account.
Do you think like a business could be successful with a low amount of social media presence, or no? Do you think just from where technology is advancing?
Depends. It would depend on the type of business. I think social media is huge. You know, just because I'm not on it and don't participate in it, I think social media is unbelievable in terms of its ability to get to a really broad number of customers, potential customers. It's just an unbelievable resource. And it's relatively inexpensive. And yet Facebook and Google make all kinds of money on advertising, so people also always pay a lot of money to those companies, you know, to advertise. So it's a great resource. You know, I'll be disappointed if you guys don't probably all have that, you know, in there in some fashion and describe for me, you know, what fashion you're going to have that, you know. More important for some than others, yeah. And I still think there's a lot of good old-fashioned marketing can be done with networking. Okay, you know, to me, you know, I'm an old-timer, and so I don't do social media. If somebody wants my business, I'm probably going to run into them at the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation dinner and, you know, shake their hand and sit down and BS with them and have beer with them. And you know, if I find out they're in XYZ business, then I might go visit them next time I need that particular product or service, right? Okay, but that's me, and I'm an old-timer. You guys are marketing to yourselves. You're marketing to youngsters now, not so much to old-timers like me. We're getting past it, so, okay. Make sure that this matches up with your budget. Okay, most of you didn't have a lot of money in for your promotion and advertising, right? Okay, and that's fine. So then don't put on there that, well, I'm going to run 14 newspaper ads, you know, every month and la-da-da. You know, newspaper ads are expensive. Or I'm going to have a radio ad campaign. They get to be a little pricey, okay? And so might some of the social media. I don't know, you know, what it takes to get out there and whatnot. So just make sure it matches up with your budget, okay? That's important. Promotion can be a lot of things that don't cost money too, you know. I mean, bootstrapping ideas, you know. Some suggestions might be if you're in a certain business, you could ask your newspaper if you could write a weekly column, about that particular business. Maybe you'd get a little bit of promotional, out of that, right? Again, getting out and networking. I think networking is a big deal in certain businesses, especially. Going to, trade shows or whatever. I was talking to my sister-in-law, and their son is kind of taking over their farm a little bit, and boy, if I want to know anything about pulse crops, I'll talk to them because they're doing a little bit of everything, and they're doing well at it. And they said that's because their son has been going to all kinds of meetings and whatnot, and talking to people and listening and getting ideas, and so they're growing mustard, and they're growing things that you wouldn't have dreamed of 10 years ago. This was primarily a wheat operation, winter wheat and spring wheat, and primarily it. Now they're growing peas and mustard and canola and lima beans and all kinds of things. They still grow a decent amount of wheat too, but okay. So budget we talked about. Pricing. Again, this gets back to if you're going to be a low cost provider, how are you going to do that? Explain, get the intricacies of how you're going to be a low cost provider. If you're not, if you're going to be a differentiator, then it's more important to say how you're going to add value to your service or your product that the customers will want, right? They'll be willing to pay a little bit extra for, okay? Location, and you're going to spend a lot more time when we talk about the business description getting into this really, really thoroughly. So here it's okay to go over this kind of briefly, I would say in this case you want to talk about your location in terms of its marketability. Does that make sense? I'm going to be located on Highway 2 because all kinds of cars go by there and they're going to see me, and I'm going to have a sign up and it's going to be beautiful and wonderful, right? Okay, that's important, right? Maybe important for the safety and whatnot. The kids, I'm right by the park where the kids can go play, whatever the case may be, if I'm doing the child care. Okay, so location can be a big deal. Maybe it's not a big deal either. If you're doing all online stuff, or if you're traveling out to meet your customers and whatnot, location may not be that meaningful. Okay, so just think of location in terms of its marketability or how that's important to you. If you're doing mobile service, probably doesn't matter a heck of a lot, right? Okay. Other than being near the potential customers. Distribution channels, how are you going to sell your products or service? For a lot of you, services, it's going to be direct, right? How do you get, if you're retailing some stuff, how are you going to get in your products that you'll eventually sell to other people? Most of you guys are services, and so, do you have to bid? Probably not. Agents, yeah. Again, a lot of this has to do with if you had a retail operation, it would be pretty important. Gosh, I'm getting long-winded here. Oh, I only got sales forecast to go through. Okay, you've already done your sales forecast, right? So explain then how your marketing plan and your sales forecast meet. How do they meet? Take a look at your numbers too. I had a few people, and I probably made some comments about that, even on your numbers on your worksheets. I said, well, man, it looks okay, but I'm a little bit nervous about your projections. Maybe a little bit difficult to do that, or maybe your sales forecast isn't enough. I had at least one that sales forecast was way below even what their monthly payments were going to be for the debt they were projecting. Well, you can't do that, right? And you're going to go, and that's before we even figure out operating expenses and those kinds of things, right? So take a look at your numbers and make sure your numbers kind of make sense, and this is one place to do that. Okay, here's my marketing, here's what I'm going to put out there, here's my target market now. Can I get 6 kids to come to my daycare? Well, I should be able to. Okay, and so that'll drive this kind of a sales forecast and right? Okay, sometimes you could do your break even here too. Is kind of a nice deal. I like break evens when it comes to this. If I don't get my estimate, but I come 20% below that, can I still stay in business? And yeah, okay, if I can, great. That's a good spot to put these things into. So, make sense? Okay, a little long-winded today. Sorry, but we got to a new subject, and like I say, marketing is going to be kind of a long subject. So I'll turn you loose now, and I'll talk more about some of the other little intricacies of this as we go along. So.